Well, daylight saving is almost over for another year, and with it comes the usual debate over its merits or lack thereof. Now, a bill is about to be introduced to State Parliament seeking to permanently change South Australia's time zones. Paul Clarick has this report.
Early in the morning, in the last week of daylight saving, and opinions on it are something you can set your clock by.
I love it.
It ought to be scrapped permanently.
I enjoy it, but it should be limited to about the middle of March.
It's beautiful the way it starts early, but I'm ready for it to be over now.
I do think it goes a little bit too long, only because it's so dark in the mornings when I get up.
I think daylight saving is about right. It'd be good to get some daylight in the morning now, but I think it's just about the right time.
It's pretty pitch black when I get up in the morning now. I get up after 6 and it's really the middle of the night.
They are going, you know what I mean? You know, they need 6 extra computers just to work out the times, you know?
On the land, there's no debate.
Running around with lights on, trying to feed cows and take hay up the road at 7 o'clock in the morning in March is ridiculous.
Cows can't tell the time. They only know when it's light and dark.
Dairy farmer and Family First MP Rob Brokenshire wants to turn back the clock. He's introducing a bill into State Parliament seeking to abolish the 4-week extension of daylight saving introduced in 2008 and to move the state's entire time zone back half an hour.
This bill will bring us back to our true Central Standard Time, and what it will do is ensure that we're an hour behind the eastern states and an hour ahead of the Western Australian state.
South Australia once shared the same time zone as Japan and Korea under an international time zone convention established more than a century ago. It was based on the 135th meridian, which passes between Port Lincoln and Elliston on the Eyre Peninsula. In 1899, under pressure from the local business community to adopt Eastern Standard Time, the state government went halfway, adopting a zone based on a meridian running outside the state.
What we've done for over a century now has been on, Warrnambool, Port Fairy, Portland, those sorts of timelines, and you imagine what impact that has as you shift further to the west. And my bill simply brings us back to true meridian Central Standard Time, slap bang up the middle of South Australia.
On the streets, his view already has some support.
So we've got 1 hour blocks instead of this ridiculous 1.5 hours for Perth and a half an hour for the eastern states. It makes more sense to me. We don't want to be a lapdog to the eastern states.
Some believe we should be going the other way, by adopting Eastern Standard Time.
If we're going to have that sort of debate, which is not about daylight saving, it's about time zones, bring it on, and let's have a reality and align ourselves with the one zone that we'd really deal with every day of our lives, and that is where 90% of the population of Australia live.
And that view also has its supporters.
Being in line with the eastern states would be a good thing. Yeah, definitely, for especially for getting live TV coverage of the sports and stuff like that would be a great thing for us.
Business and farmers both want the half-hour time difference scrapped for very different reasons.
We actually had proposed in Australia at the time of Federation that there be one time zone for the whole of the nation. Interestingly enough, China, with billions of people, has exactly that.
Well, look, if we go back a number of years, the government itself appointed a select committee to have a look at the way the time is structured in South Australia. Now, they came up with a recommendation that the South Australian time should be based on the 135th parallel.
That committee also found there was little evidence of a likely overall economic gain or loss from changing the time zone forwards or backwards. In contrast, it said there was a considerable volume of evidence to indicate that there is a number of social disadvantages to South Australia being on the existing time meridian, and that this would worsen should there be a shift to the east of a further half hour. The committee recommended that South Australia approach the Northern Territory to trial adopting a 1-hour time difference from the East Coast.
I think there actually was a lot of merit in that, and I think that's Robert's intention to actually revisit that.
And they actually recommended exactly what I'm now proposing. So it's been looked at by a committee, but then for political reasons, the government of the day or successive governments have said, oh, well, you know, we don't want to upset anybody, and some people like it the way it is.
Like it or not, Rob Brokenshire's bill will be introduced to Parliament later this month.
I'm beginning to wonder if it's time for change.